Everybody who's joining us again, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. This is the 7th month of the Montana Mountaineering Speaker Series, and we're so happy that when we started this with the intention of bringing our community together. Due to COVID, due to quarantine, due to everything else, a lot of plans got canceled. Those are ice fests, climbing bashes, etc. And our community, one that's really tight knit and that spends a ton of time together at crags and elsewhere, was slightly separated. So the intention was to bring everyone together. And now we're on the 7th month while people are starting to, get vaccinated, etc. So we're excited to continue the speaker series, but also do so in the months that we're all kind of, reacclimating, rejoining each other at the crag and spending more quality time together. So, with that being said, I want to say thank you for joining us through these months. The MMA is announcing the Junior Mountaineering Team 2021 Scholarship Fundraiser. As this year, students are preparing for the Tetons already, thanks to many of your donations from the speaker series. We're planning ahead for next year's session of the Junior Mountaineering Team. And we're aiming to raise $6,000 to provide a handful of full and partial scholarships to kids hoping to learn about the mountain craft, etc. So for every donation you make of $30 or more, you'll be enrolled in a random prize selection raffle. The prizes vary from local artists to photographers, punch cards and memberships to Spire Fitness, the Mountain Project, and outdoor equipment like backpacks and jackets from Mystery Ranch in Patagonia. So we, encourage you and appreciate all your donations. But, thank you so much for helping us make a difference in many of these budding alpinists' lives. Without further ado, though, I want to introduce our speakers for the 7th speaker series, which, many of participants who join our speaker series, requested it, not knowing that they were already kind of one of our first, team that we reached out to asking if they would be part of this. So we're so happy that you guys wanted to have them on as much as us. But, we have two fantastic human beings on, and that's Patrick Odenbeck and Tom Kingsbury. And we are just so appreciative to have you guys on. So I just want to give you guys a second to say hello to everyone who's joined us, and we'll kick it off with a really fun event tonight.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. We're really psyched to be here.
And hey to everybody out there. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Or watching it later, I guess.
Yeah, whatever happens.
Yeah.
It's a version of Between the Two Ferns, as we said before. So for anyone who knows Tom or Patrick, why they are so, not deserving, because this is not like a highly acclaimed podcast, but they have the stories that we all want to hear. You think about the intent of the speaker series and you think about people, and you guys are really obvious kind of candidates. You're obvious for us and you're obvious for other people. And I think it's because the energy you really exude and your passion for what you do. So, we're going to talk tonight about everything ranging from, your guys' time in Pipestone and your early days all the way to, your time spent at the Beartooth and now. But I want to kind of shut up and let you guys kind of introduce yourselves as climbers and where you've met, and some of the foundational places that we will talk about tonight, because you're really the best to introduce them to our audience than anyone else.
You go first, Tom?
Well, I'm Tom Kingsbury. I moved here to the Bozeman, Gallatin Valley in about 2001. And went to school here and fell in love with the climbing here and cut my teeth learning to climb the Gallatin Canyon. And the rest is history. Just kind of got to stay here. That's a blessing in and of itself. And found a lot of rock to explore in the meantime. So fortunate to find other people who like to explore rock, being Patrick Odenbeck and a handful of other people that like to go and stomp around. So yeah.
I'm Patrick Odenbeck. I'm actually from Colorado. I started climbing when I was pretty young. My dad was involved in mountain rescue in Aspen, and he taught me kind of the basics, and I quickly surpassed him in his abilities. And then I went to college in Fort Collins and climbed a lot on the Front Range there. And I moved up to Bozeman in 2008. And yeah, quickly realized that there was some serious untapped potential here. You know, after climbing in Red Feather Lakes, the bouldering in Butte was like Red Feather Lakes times 1,000, and I just couldn't believe that no one had done anything really there, or I hadn't heard about anything. And, I ran into Tom actually at Justin Griffith's 30th birthday party. We were introduced by him there, and I had climbed with Justin before, and so had Tom, and he was like, "You guys have a similar psych for this type of thing. I think you guys should get introduced to each other," and we did. And after that, we just started bouldering a lot together, and climbing in general, honestly.
I want to say yes, but I honestly.
Now, for those who aren't familiar with Pipestone, would you guys, acclimate, the audience with a little bit of the history? Because I mean, there are bits and pieces, but a lot of those bits and pieces are really put together through your guys' blog. So, if you could give some people the background of the Boulder Batholith and the extent of where it stretches, and some of the geological history, that'd be great.
Yeah, this is Tom's expertise by far. As he opens another beer.
It's essential.
Expand my brain. So the Boulder Batholith extends south, all the way down into the Humbugs, and north all the way up to the Helena area, Blue Cloud, Sheep Mountain, that area, and around all of the Butte, vicinity as well. To my knowledge, there was some early climbing, scrambling type clubs in the early 1900s. I found a couple of photos just kind of scouring the internet, the Butte Rangers or something. I don't know. Anyways, there's a few things about the Centennial Park, and folks going up into there. I think I'm botching Centennial Park. It's not that, but my brain's tapped a little bit lately. So anyways, from then on, the next kind of history I know would be like Dwight Bishop and Bill Dawkins and that whole crew, Kurt Kruger. And they did some initial bouldering, but mainly there was just so many crags around that I asked Kurt, I was like, why didn't you guys boulder? What's the deal? And he's like, you see that big crag up there? Yeah, we had to develop those 50 roots up there, Tom, So they had their hands full, and it was like bouldering was an afterthought. And Kurt would have some funny stories where he'd say, see that boulder over there? I gave that boulder to Dwight for his birthday. And I'm like, really? Did Dwight climb that thing? And he's like, oh no.
Like these perfect boulders.
These beautiful things, yeah. But, and then Kevin Hutchison, he did a lot of, he had a family cabin in along the Continental Divide, and he did a lot of mid-90s climbing and development and kept powering the scene, him and Dwight, along with Kurt. And yeah, I mean, that was kind of the early scene. And the Butte scene kind of waxed and waned. And I kind of fell in love with it in the early 2000s when I started climbing and bouldering and hanging out with my brother, and we'd go out there. And from then on, there was Andrew Whitmore and Ron Pedrez and Hutchison and my brother Pat and our buddy Steve Hansel and Jeremy Champion and a few folks that we'd just kind of go romp around, and as well as some of the more well-known crushers of the day that I would dupe into coming out, like Justin and Rasher and Kyler and Eric Pallister and all these other kids, and they'd come out and bring them through, and Henry Schlotthauser, these kids would early on want to come out and check it out, and it'd be like a one and done day or something, and they got other things to do. They were going bigger deals. And so to find Patrick being psyched on the scene, really helped keep powering it forward. And, you'd always be like, well, where are we going? What's the deal? Type of thing. So, yeah. I don't know if that answered exactly the question.
I think it was a beautiful answer. If you have anything to show, I'd love to put up some photos of Pipestone for those who haven't been there to show.
Yeah, I think this is actually going to be more of like a photos montage and us talking through it. I think.
Right.
Tom's got some cool maps I think we'll start out with, and then we'll go from there. So the thing is, like, I'm gonna just preface this, like, this might produce a lot more psych than we want, but whatever. We're psyched to show some of the places that we've been and some things we've done. Unfortunately, just because of time and assets, we have not been able to, let's say, document things to the level that we should be capable of doing.
I wouldn't say we're reticent by any means. We're just, we got lives outside of climbing, raising families and wives and other interests and stuff. And all of a sudden you got a couple thousand boulder problems that you've established.
and like, I don't know, how many areas do we have now? Many, like 30 plus areas.
But there's also a power to naming. So we can just kind of get ripping on these photos here. So this is just, I was laughing. It was like, you might wonder how I got here. But yeah, so this is some early day stuff with in the Gallatins. I climbed mainly with my brother, doing routes, putting up lines out there. That's kind of how I got the taste for exploring. We climbed a lot of stuff, and then we're also like, what else is there to do? That first ascent idea was kind of always alluring. So we did a little bit of that. We did it over in Butte. This is out on the south face of the Queen. I put up the most moderate bolted line on the Queen, which is right up my alley. Moderates. That's the Lorax. It's like 10D or something. It's pretty decent little bolted. But then my brother moved on and started traveling, and I was here with a decent job, so I started exploring bouldering. There's Frew in some short shorts, real early days in Modest Canyon, probably 2006, 5, somewhere in there. We started looking at routes like Dwight Bishop's Simeon Rage, which is this like 12D, 13A finger crack thing that wasn't very tall, and we're like, that's a boulder problem. We started getting psyched, and then we started seeing all this other stuff, and crack bouldering was kind of where we leaned to, just because that's kind of what Butte offers. But there's also other stuff. This is out in the desert. This is the Uptronic Eye before it was established. I was calling it the Sketchy Hitchhiker Project. There's like a power to naming stuff. If you don't put a name, even if you don't send it later, if you're working something, because if you're like, hey, remember that one thing past that beyond the other guy there, and we were like, whatever there, it just drops away. But if you put a name to that, put a little power behind that with a name. And then we met Hutchison. Here, I got to go back. Notice who's spotting me here. Is this me and my brother met Kevin Hutchison, and he started helping power the scene in the early days. He was definitely, he's a force of the Butte scene for sure. There's no denying Kevin's involvement. He brought us to this. This is the 5-star crack, which then this big chunk fell out like 3 years later, came the 4-star crack. But it's still pretty good. And then just behind it, like 8 to 10 years later, Jeff Ho put up this layback project. You can see there's a little bit of chalk on it. The Viva La Vida, which is like V9 or something. It's gnarly hard. I don't know. Anyways. But it's funny to see this and then know years later that these things kind of go down, I guess. Adam Frew in the courtyard putting up the first ascent of the Pagoda crack. It was like a single pad, maybe 2. I'm like, you want
like a 25?
It's like 24. I'm like,
one pad.
I'm like, you want a spot on this? He's like, oh no, you just go up and snap a photo, dude. Space Needle. Yeah, you got it. Sorry, Chad. You gonna say something?
No, I didn't want to say anything. I'm just saying, wow.
All right. Yeah, this was more early days. So Kevin brought us to the desert, which is right at the cross tracks of the
on Pipestone.
Pipestone,
like
right?
Basically, where the railroad tracks cross. If you just go past those and to the right, so there's a big parking lot there. You'll see a lot of moto guys there.
It's right in here. So this is like a crude map for my Google Earth kind of point stuff for when I kind of explore and whatnot. But yeah, this is the bottom of the pass. Here's the top of the Continental Divide.
It's I-90.
This is I-90, and Butte's over here, and Whitehall's over here, and this is the Pipestone exit. So when you first come up and cross the train tracks, coming up into Pipestone, if you're going to go to King and Queen, per se, this is where a lot of people unload with their bikes and with their ATVs, but there's also a couple hundred boulder problems there. And that was kind of our first little zone where we started exploring. It had a lot less. I mean, right in the middle of the winter, it's pretty decent bouldering. I mean, it was then, it still is, right? But and then up in here, this would be the trailer boulders, just to give some people some perspective. And then this would be the Druthers and Superbia up here. And then up here towards the top of the pass, this is what's known as the Northern Bourbons, where we had the first couple butte bouldering bashes about 10 so years ago. And this is where like the Homestake Lodge is. And then this is Delmo Lake over here. And there's a road that's about 20 miles long that goes from here all the way through as many boulders as you care to check out, all the way back through here, and comes out through here. And this is what we have in a guidebook.
This is what we have in the guidebooks.
And then this is like everything else that we still kind of need to get onto paper in a way. We're not trying to hold back. It's just there's a lot. I mean, this is Whiskey Gulch down here, and there's some stuff missing. I mean, Eric Christensen, who's a force to be reckoned with in developing, he and Henry Schlotthauser and a number of other guys have been developing over up in here in the Fantasia area. And that there's I don't have all their points put on this map or stuff. And there's also a lot of stuff to the north.
To the north, it's outside of this. Yeah.
Outside of this map. But this is just kind of give an overview of where.
So some of that development is going on from hooking a right at Four Corners and heading almost straight up there.
Yeah, so here's the Four Corners.
Oh.
And then if you go straight north at Four Corners here, this would be the isolated boulders here.
Oh.
And then if you keep going on this road, there's a couple of little in holdings. This is where there's that wind power generator, the house with the wind power generator and stuff. And then you get onto the shoulder of McCluskey here. Right on the shoulder is what's called the Dryads.
Yep.
I was there this weekend, actually.
Yeah, looked pretty dry, eh?
Yeah, it was great.
And then you can go over the shoulder of McCluskey Mountain, which is that big old mountain when you're driving to King and Queen, and they have there's a formation right on the top that you're looking at, and you're like, oh, I wonder what's up there. But you can go over the right shoulder and drop into what's called Gillespie Basin behind that. And that's where the Craig Fantasia is, which is Dwight Bishop, Kurt Kruger, Kevin Hutchison. They put up most of the initial routes out there. But then there's been a bunch of people putting up bouldering problems about 30, 40-minute walk up the hill above all the Craig.
And it's excellent bouldering. It's like pocketed granite.
It's really different.
It's very different
than
than all the other zones.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then there's some other stuff over in this side of Gillespie Basin too, but the access is a little tricky. But if you look at a map, you can figure it out. It's not too bad, but there's some cool potential in there. I mean, there's potential everywhere. I mean, this whole center area, I got these green dots. There's a green dot there, and that's just like, I haven't taken GPS points on a lot of this stuff,
Yeah,
so
a lot of these things we've had recons out to, and maybe we didn't climb anything or something.
yeah. All right, I'll jump back in. Sorry, here I got sidetracked. And then so this is like the Aspens, which is up near the train tracks on the top, where like Risen Zuby and Eswall and Gillette Edge.
Gillette Edge.
You go like north of the cattle pond at like at Eswall, Gillette Edge. You end up in these Aspens. Well, this is actually a brickyard. I'm full of it. This is by Risen Zuby, still north of the tracks though. This is Josh Apple on Apple's Plum, which is like beautiful hands V1, and then to the right of it is the Frew With, which is I think unrepeated still, to be honest. And he didn't climb it like this. He ended up coming back and jamming it out, but that picture is pretty hilarious and kind of wild. So that was a fun one. That's definite early days. And we're also kind of doing the off with crack bouldering, getting excited about Vedawoo or Vedawoo or whatever. I'm probably saying it wrong both ways. And started to learn how to do that type of stuff. And that's what was kind of a fun adventure, and getting excited about all the different wide cracks out here. So my brother and I kind of found some being live acts and some being jammies and whatnot. And here's Andrew Whitmore on Nefe out in the desert on the West Hill. And there's Pat out in the druthers. We found the druthers early on on Pat's birthday. We were out bouldering and we like climbed up this over on what's called the lower druthers and looked across and found the whole other hillside. And yeah, the rest was history. So that's kind of fitting to have a shot of my brother. That's Pat Wolf on the Mastodon. That's probably one of the oldest established problems that has been renamed probably a bunch of times, but we call it currently the Mastodon. According to some guy on rockclimbing.com back who went to college in Butte in the mid 80s, we used to call this area the East Tracks just because that was the east side of the pass where the tracks crossed, but he said they called it the desert back in the day. So to pay homage to this guy who went to Butte Tech back in like 84 or 86 or something like that, we call it the desert. He also said he had like a notebook and some pictures of some boulder problems and told me about some boulder problem at the King and Queen called my cowboy boots. And he described it as climbing out of a pit below that was like triple cracks. And it's kind of like, I think I've seen it before. There's like a little, like a V1, V2 overhang thing. So I'm going to try to do justice to that old name somehow, but it's not, I don't know. It's hard to do a bouldering guide right in the King and Queen without including all the routes too or something. So I've always kind of held back on adding too much data, but might be some mountain project stuff or something. Here's Frew in the regular bourbons, which is an Andrew Whitmore area. Andrew was an early force in the bouldering scene too. He single-handedly put up 100 or so problems in an area and then brought everybody there, which is kind of cool. He'd be traveling back and forth from Missoula and would stop at the pass and found this zone and just put up a bunch of problems. And he was a fun guy in the early days to link up with. Him and Hutch and me and my brother, we did quite a bit and wrote the early guides, basically, I would say. That's Hutch on the big shoe roof.
With little shoes.
And my brother had to wear my shoes, which were like a size bigger than his feet to make this thing work back in the early days of figuring out how to off-road climb. But yeah, that's a fun one. That's underneath the power lines. I don't know, if you keep going north of the Aspens, North Aspens. Yeah.
So it's north of Gillette Edge.
Yeah.
And so is this.
This is Andrew on the first ascent of the Vulcan Nerve Pinch. That's out there. That's a really fun
great V4.
And then on the VMAO, which is also in the Aspens. I think I got a video of that here coming up too. We also started going to the benchlands, and sometimes we find these off lists. This is Pat on the first ascent of Chapoteau.
So the benchlands is super obvious. Like if you go past on the interstate and you're on Pipestone exit, and you go past Pipestone exit on the interstate, and you go up and you look on the right, and you're like, whoa, what are all those boulders over there? That's what we call the benchlands, and it's basically a boulder maze. It's like a 3-dimensional maze, and some blocks are sitting on top of each other, and you have all these crazy caverns and things. And Chapoteau, which is one of the bigger caverns, was done by Pat and Tom.
Yeah, you can kind of see we're inside of this. There's a capstone up above here, and we're down in this crevice, and it's like open air caving kind of. When you're going around and exploring out there, you're like walking. You start at the top of the hill, and you keep walking down, and you go underneath a boulder, and all of a sudden there's like 50 feet of boulders above you and drop below you, and it's pretty fun running around out there. But you kind of got to park at the Pipestone exit and walking on the tracks, or you got to come in during the summer, which is kind of hot, through some upper roads, because can't really park on the side of the highway these days. They don't really like that, so you don't want to cause access issues. But it is a cool area, and you can get there. So
I'll have to give you guys the blueprints for the railroad bike. There's a design of a railroad bike that has an outrigger with 2 skateboard wheels that ride on the other track, so it always keeps you there. And,
wow!
Yeah, guy ran.
I had dreams of doing that.
Yeah, we could just like go like this with
10
crash pads.
That'd be perfect. Well, we have a garage to design one in.
Video in the making. There's just some exploring on the ridge, some early northern desert stuff. big slabby. We had this thing called the Boulder Batholith Bash before the Butte Bouldering Bash, which I was kind of active on Super Topo forums back in the day, and I convinced a bunch of people to come out and camp for a week, and we got like my brother-in-law's band to come out and play, and had like a keg of beer, and dude from Colorado came. We got like Scott Cole of the Tetons fame to come out. So this is like Roy McClellan, who he is ahead in his own right for sure. Back in the day, did a bunch of cool stuff, and then that's Scott Cole doing some bouldering too. We got a bunch of people out. It was a fun week, and it kind of set the seed for the Butte Bouldering Bash in a way. I was kind of thought it was neat. That's that super classic one at the King and Queen that's probably been named and climbed and renamed
50 billion times.
Yeah. To eternity. And it still doesn't have probably.
It has no
name.
name. We should just call it the Prince or something like that.
It's a beauty. Yeah. It's a good one.
Cowboy Prince.
Oh yeah. This is like you want me to play a video? Here we go. This is the tall tale of John Teeter out in the eastern isolated bowl. Look at that handshake. Oh, good Lord. Got Whitmore and Frew giving me a hard time as I climb a boulder here.
So like a lot of people think that you climb out and Butte is just these naked eggs with nothing on them. That's not necessarily the truth. If you look at this boulder, you see this amazing alligator skin and patina. Like a lot of it is actually like that. And we've had fortunate access to these things and put up some pretty amazing stuff. It's just we just hit it at the right time, I guess.
It's a blessing. Yeah.
Whitmore is a true crusher and just an awesome guy.
Yeah. Good dude all around for sure.
I've never watched footage of Pipestone before, but knowing the rock as intimately as I do, well, like rubbing certain areas of my hand.
Yeah, your fingers hurting a little bit right now.
I've been injured over the credit cards over the years. It's like a rusty serrated edge of a wood saw.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Mastodon crack. I'll keep powering. Oh, and this one's pretty. This is a worthy. This is the Virgin Mary acid overdrive. That's what this one's called. It looks like the Virgin Mary, kind of one of those idols set in the inside where he's crimping down.
Really great problem in the acid.
Really, he makes it look way too easy.
Because he's like, what, 6'4"?
Yeah. Oh, man. I think that wraps up early days. And then, yeah, that's kind of where Odenbeck and I kind of linked up more or less. And we can jump into some 3 days stuff here.
Yeah.
Odenbeck can take over on talking.
I can talk a little bit, I guess, huh? Boots up. Yeah, so it was really weird. Like, I was bouldering out here as well in Pipestone, and I started noticing some chalk near some of the areas that I was bouldering in. I was like, who the heck is climbing this? And, man, these people look pretty strong. They must be, I don't know who they are or whatever, but it'd be great to run into them. And then we ran into Justin, and it turns out we talked to each other, and it was like, oh, I was there the week before. And I was like, oh, okay.
I drove right by you. I was like,
waved to each other on the road.
Hey, who's that guy?
We didn't even realize it. And so this awesome synergy just kind of just happened. Like Tom, just his ability with all of the mapping GIS stuff and knowing all of that and just history. And then there's just the psych that I guess I had at that point in time and still do. We just like started going out like almost every weekend or more and finding all these crazy things and just climbing them. And this is a problem out in the area called the Moonstones, which is on the south side of the path of the interstate. It's a really small area, but there's just this beautiful problem. It's so good. And, you know, seeing some of these other things, this problem's in the Brickyard or
Hideout Ridge.
Ridge. Yeah.
Top of the passage. Like
And Clay's down there. Clay's done a lot of climbing with us in the past too.
Clay was a force to be reckoned with as well.
Just these beautiful like crack problems that you just don't normally see in other places. This is a project that's in the Dryads, so it's on that shoulder of McCluskey. It's just this really awesome, we call it the Wave Project. It's just this really awesome couple moves, and then to an insanely bad high wall top out.
Steep, scary,
and
all the good stuff.
But it's just so fun to try these things and see how far you can get. And you know, I've worked it on rope before, but just haven't got the gumption to go do it yet.
There's a lot of rock out there, so this is the main thing is we see a lot of rock, and then we get excited about one thing, and then about a couple weeks later you find something else.
Yeah,
and it just keeps kind of going and going, and then all of a sudden you're like, that was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And it gets crazy. I was showing these pictures to Odenbeck. I was like, remember this Craig thing? I posted it yesterday on my stories 8 years ago. And he's like, that was 8 years ago?
Yeah.
This is the barely illegal arete.
Problem called Sweet Tart.
Yeah. The barely illegal boulder, I should say.
Barely illegal boulder.
Here's some crew shots I threw in just because these are kind of crew more when we had a lot of psych. I mean, we always kind of had a fair amount of psych, able to draw some people in, but Kevin Wildrick and Sarah.
They're in Switzerland now. Yeah. Kevin was working as a mathematician at NSU, and they were both crushers, and they came out with us quite a bit. Now they've moved back to Europe.
Yep.
This is the porpoise boulder early on this is in Superbia, actually.
Yep. This is in the deep boulder and bash problems. This is a classy one to do. Here's Jared and Frew out. Where is this one?
Lower ISOs. Okay. So this is kind of lower ISOs. It's really crazy. We've had some pretty big falls from this. We don't have in here, but it's just this really weird slab problem, and we were taking like 20-foot falls off this thing.
That was a fun day.
This is in the roof blocks. This is a problem called Suck My Kiss, because Suck My Kiss is playing on the on the radio while we were climbing it. It's awesome. It's just if you look at this boulder, you'll just see like all the amazing like alligator skin like holds, and it's like a V0 top out, but it's like 30 feet or whatever.
Pretty wild one.
Where is that one?
This is up at Roof Rock. So this is kind of Kevin Hutchison and Kurt Kruger. Like even if you look in the old Butte guide, which was done after Dwight's passing and Kurt put it together, mentions there's good bouldering up there, and some guy did a little bit of bouldering, and the problems will never be revealed. I think Kurt didn't know what was done, basically, so he just put some cryptic stuff in there. Mm-hmm. But we went back up there, and there's a lot of really cool stuff up there, and that kind of spurred on some other people to find, because from the right angles there, you can kind of look over into Fantasia, and there's more of this rock. Mm-hmm. And this is that really beautiful, unique rock that's up in that Gillespie Basin, Roof Rock area. And we got some more pictures of that coming up, I'm sure. Northern Bourbons, the summer day. That's a nice problem. It's a Blue Cadet 3 after the Modest Mouse. This is the back room. No, this is single barrel bourbons, which is kind of, you got to keep going past the Northern Bourbons. This is the Obstructionist. Mm-hmm. That's Kevin Wildrick. Yep.
Second ascent. There's a problem called the Bird Beak, and it's out in the Benchlands.
It's Kevin on the first ascent to that one. I had found that thing in 2008 and tried it probably once or twice a season for more times than I care to admit. And still try it once or twice a season, more times than I care to admit. There's a young lad Hutchison giving me a spot on the Pine Arete back in the day when Odenbeck found the Superbia on his own and climbed a flurry of boulders and brought us out there to tour around. It's pretty sweet.
This is Fru on the Blue Boulder project. This is out in the Druthers.
This thing's still waiting to get done.
Fru came really close to sending it, and he actually got up to the top out section and broke a hold off and fell from the top and landed on his back. He said, "I'm done for the day." But he's never, to my knowledge, attained that same height since that time.
Yeah.
And we've tried it multiple times. It's a really amazing problem.
Yeah, it's a good one. There's a lot of classics and a lot of things waiting to be done that will be seriously classic, in my opinion. There's Odenbeck's little girl.
Who is that?
That's Brielle, and that's the Super Boulder.
Supreme Perfection.
Supreme Perfection.
So this is maybe my favorite, or probably my favorite moderate boulder problem of all time. It's just nice, beautiful climbing up to this cool little move up higher. You gotta do this nice foot rock over. Actually, got a little video of it later if we have time. There's Lad climbing in. As a young man. Lad 16 now. It's hard to believe. It's pretty awesome.
Maybe like 8 years old.
Yeah, 8 or 9 years old doing that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty. Kids always had the gift of going for it, for sure.
Kids are naturals out there. I know that Liam, I mean, that's like his favorite place to go.
Yeah. Let the kids be kids out there, man. It's great.
So this is our buddy Kyle Pallister on a problem in the ISOs, which is called Highlander, for obvious reasons. You can see, the group around him, spotting him and, being uplifting as possible. I don't know if most people have heard, but recently Tyler has been diagnosed with a form of leukemia, and there's a GoFundMe site. And I don't know, it'd be awesome if you can to donate to that, because he is definitely one of the super unknown crushers out there. Probably one of the best all-around climbers that I've ever met, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be a really great thing. I don't know. If you could share that or something, Chad, or talk.
Yeah, it's been put on the comments on the Facebook Live for everybody. The GoFundMe link to Kyler's GoFundMe set up by his brother.
Nice. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This is there's my Zoom thing on here is a little weird right now. There's a big group of people down here. We got Clay and Peter Ramos and myself and my brother and Stephanie Mumia and Whitmore, looking like he's very concerned. This is a classic photo. Aaron Thrasher took this picture, I believe. And we got Lad and Liddy in the background, Kevin's kiddos hanging out, not really even paying attention to the epicness going down. But what Kyler brings to the scene is, this is a testament. I mean, everyone was psyched for this to go down, and he powered up, and yeah, it was pretty rad. It was a good day. This is the upper meadow of the isolated boulders. It's Pat Wolf and more crew. We got, I think that was, I don't even know who was there. I thought that was Bridget and Lauren, but
Yeah,
I'm not exactly sure.
just keep powering through.
Yeah, we better keep going. That's what I thought was funny. This is out in Sheep Mountain. I just needed to mention there's more to the batholith than the batholith. Besides the pass is what I'm meaning. Sheep Mountain in its own right has a lot of good bouldering to be done. It's just a different drive, I guess, or however you want to look at it.
We went up there, and Tom was like, "I'm just gonna go up this slab," and he just starts going and wandering all over the place. I'm like, "I'm gonna take a photo of this." He's like way off the path, way off the ground.
That would have mattered. I just would have skittered that whole thing. Anyways,
Pretty fun.
it's cash. This is Courtyard Rose on the
Cherry Blossom.
Cherry Blossom. That's the marsupial out in the desert. This is out in the Outback boulder. I think it's pretty cool. Odenbeck getting the FA. This is just more shot. This is Ari taking this photo. Ari has been in a lot of the adventures as well. It'd be amiss not to mention Ari. It's Northern Bourbons. It's just
Some crazy stuff.
in the benchlands.
Wow.
Alien-like looking formations.
Wildness out there.
Lava.
This is called Chocosaurus.
Yeah, look at this formation. This thing looks just like a dinosaur.
It's like this wide.
Yeah, right underneath. It's like the head of a dinosaur. You're like grabbing up underneath. It's pretty wild. Oh, we're moving on. All right. Here's more
This is up
Roof
in
rock.
Roof rock.
Yeah,
This is
roof rock.
called by size the pentagram.
Spring Meadow, Ultras of the Void. So yeah, there's a lot of boulders out there. Here's Lad putting up another one.
This is an unrepeated problem called On a Pale Horse. It's this perfect, like 120-degree corner that's slightly overhanging with barely any holds on it. Probably one of my best sends, honestly, in the back lift.
Coyote Flats, which is like there's nothing out there, but
There's
potential.
just one like main
and this one line.
line.
This is this knee bar tastes like chicken. This is like the college crew. I think we got Fragamini and Noah and Joey. And yeah, I just thought this was a funny shot. It was fun. It's like every once in a while you get these college kids that are psyched, you know, and I've been here long enough that there's been like 3 or 4 groups of them, and it's cool. Bring it on, you know, and more and more kids. I'll tour around and point you to some boulders. This is the breather. I'd sick you on this thing unless you had too many cheeseburgers. Because I got stuck in this thing with my sweatshirt, and if the zipper goes sideways, it'll rip you up. This is
The Heisenberg.
the Heisenberg. Yeah. I wish I had. Oh, here we go. So look at this pit underneath.
So it's like actually like 30 feet off the ground.
We got my pads down here, and I'm like holding on the homeboy.
Holding the fruit. He's got his eyes closed.
Yeah, he's can't even spot. Pretty funny. That's a fun one. Can you see this bar as I move it around? I don't know if you can or not.
I don't know.
Can you see that, Chad?
Yep, you can see the bar as you zoom in.
All right.
Oh,
Shite.
now
I mean, all right. Oh,
maybe we should
we move forward.
move on to the
All right.
next zone.